Hello everyone. Welcome back to Eco Tuna. 20 chapters into the story and we already have 2 donut-shaped plot holes. Sounds like a joke, right? But this is actually how the Boruto author is struggling to portray the danger of the new era. Rookies keep getting knocked out, severely injured, or thrown off the battlefield after just a few panels. This isn't wrong, it does create a sense of urgency and pressure, keeping readers on edge. But here's the funny paradox. Up until now, after countless life or death battles, not a single major character has actually died. Is this just the author playing it too safe? A soft choice for a manga that's supposed to embody the shonen spirit of fierce battles, where life, death, growth, and sacrifice go hand in hand. To dive deeper into this issue, let's explore a theory together. The price of compassion and the inevitable trade-offs of war. We often compare the world of Boruto with the era of Naruto, and many times claim that this new generation is darker, more complex, and harsher. But there's an undeniable contradiction. Nearly a quarter into the series, with numerous major battles that are supposed to define the new gen, we still haven't seen a single game-changing sacrifice. The so-called brutality of this era is only briefly shown, like the death of Konoha's guard ninjas who tried to stop the enemy. They fell as fast as they appeared, leaving no impact on the viewers. If this is how the author wants to show the harshness of the new generation, then maybe the dark tone is only skin-deep, limited to the visuals, while the story itself is wrapped in an overly safe and artificial shell. That's what makes me wonder, does the darkness of Boruto's era truly exist? Or is it just a coat of paint on a story that hasn't grown any teeth yet? The author seems too greedy, trying to keep every character alive, even if they contribute nothing to the main plot. That ends up watering down the harshness of the battlefield. Clearly, Ikemoto is falling into the same trap many mangaka have faced, chaining themselves with too much mercy, making the plot lose its edge during major fights. If Boruto always shows up just in time to save everyone from death, then the ninja world is bound to feel dull and toothless. So the big question now is, will the author dare to risk killing off someone from the new generation, so that we, as readers, can truly feel the cost of war? To me, Boruto desperately needs a real sacrifice to become a story with depth, like its predecessor. The Naruto generation was forged in war, loss, and irreversible deaths. We witnessed the passing of Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Asuma, Neji. Every loss left a mark on our hearts, a lesson, a pain, and a moment of true growth. It's precisely because of those shocks that the characters are forced to become more grounded. They have to realize that they are not perfect saviors, but rather broken souls who have hit rock bottom, and yet still manage to stand tall for the sake of others. Looking at the Boruto era, at least up until recently, everything feels wrapped in a suffocating layer of safety. The battles may be intense, but they rarely carry a real sense of life or death. Characters are willing to die to give their comrades a chance to survive, and yet, they all end up being saved at the last minute. Over time, this makes us stop worrying when someone is in danger. Even the meaning behind their sacrifice disappears as soon as the fight ends. That's why a real, meaningful death in Boruto is desperately needed right now. Not to force tears out of the audience, but to reignite the value of life. So that a new generation, even if imperfect, can still stand strong, because they understand the true cost of peace. Remember this. Life only has meaning when the line between it and death is still visible. If no one dies, then no one truly lives, at least in the minds of the viewers. As of now, Boruto and Sarada are clearly the 2 characters the author has portrayed the most comprehensively, not just in terms of strength, but also in emotional depth. In Boruto's case, he experienced loss and loneliness early on. That's why he has matured far more than others his age. From a child once seen as the light of the future, he now has to grow up in the darkness. Smiles have been replaced by coldness, complaints replaced by decisive action. After 3 years of training away from home, Boruto didn't just learn how to get stronger, he came to understand the cruelty of the ninja world, where every favor is a debt, and betrayal can come from anyone. Boruto's change in personality during the first half of Part 2 is both a sign of growth and a warning bell for a future full of risks. However, Boruto alone bearing the weight of loss is not enough to portray the cruelty of the ninja world. That's exactly why the author has begun placing Sarada in a similarly tragic situation. For the first time in her life, the princess of the Uchiha clan is faced with a heartbreaking reality. Possessing immense power, yet powerless to stop her comrades from falling right before her eyes. If her Mangekyo Sharingan didn't have healing abilities, Yodo's death would not only be a psychological shock, but also a defining moment that would shape Sarada's character and her ideals in battle. These rare, but timely, sacrifices serve as the catalyst for Sarada to unlock her full, previously suppressed potential. At the same time, she may finally shed the label of being a porcelain doll, because life itself is forcing the Uchiha princess to pay the full price for the strength she possesses. Without being torn apart by grief and pain, Sarada would remain just a child pretending to be an adult. She needs to experience darkness, not just the darkness of the world, but the darkness within herself. There may come a time when Sarada has to witness more of her loved ones fall. Because if a world exists where every battle is safe enough for everyone to survive, a world with no loss, no sacrifice, then what meaning would Sarada's ideals even have? And if she doesn't endure loss to truly understand the value of peace, then does she deserve to become Hokage? A great leader is not someone who is always right, it's someone who has failed, who has lost, who has wanted to give up, but still chooses to stand up and move forward. Maybe Sarada will lose her way in the future. Maybe she will stand on the edge of corruption, ready to throw everything away in exchange for power. But if she overcomes it, and continues to fight not for revenge, but because she doesn't want anyone else to suffer like she did, then that is the moment she becomes a true Hokage. In my opinion, Sarada won't inherit Naruto's legacy just because of beautiful promises or childhood dreams. She will become Hokage only when she picks up the shattered pieces herself after the decisive battles. And when she overcomes the darkness inside her, that's when she will take the first steps toward becoming a new symbol of the Leaf Village, a Hokage not born from radiant light, but one who emerged from the very darkness she survived. Back to the present. The battle between Sarada and Ryu is not just a fight for survival. It's a turning point that will define her ideals, her identity, and her destiny as a girl carrying the dream of becoming Hokage. A transformed 10 Tails like Ryu doesn't represent an evil that can be reasoned with. He is the raw embodiment of destruction, a reminder that not every battle ends beautifully. And in the face of such overwhelming power, Sarada is forced to confront the true limits of herself, not just physically, but mentally. The fall of her comrades is no longer a possibility. It becomes the cost of hesitation, the price of naive belief that everyone can be saved. In that moment, Sarada might collapse. She might be so filled with rage and despair that she chooses to abandon the righteous path, stepping into the shadows just like her father once did to protect the ones he loved. And if that happens, no one can blame her, because that's the instinct of someone who's been pushed into a corner, with no other options left. But if she can overcome this trial, Sarada will be reborn as a warrior far stronger than she is now. Ryu is ultimately a brutal test, one that forces the Uchiha princess to redefine who she truly is. From then on, she will no longer be a girl with a noble dream to become Hokage. She will be a survivor of hell, someone who knows that in order to protect everything, sometimes, great sacrifices must be made. A Hokage isn't forged in peace, but tempered in the fires of war, in the loss, the pain. Not perfect, not invincible, but unshakably resilient to the end. That's the image of the Hokage Sarada is destined to become. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Ego Tuna.